This Detroit News Podcast is brought to you by Varsity Ford of Ann Arbor.
All right, everybody, welcome back to Gritiron Gang, a Detroit News Lions podcast. The Detroit Lions lose 27-24 to the Minnesota Vikings at Ford Field today, coming off the bye week. A lot of good emotions coming off that last win over the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and it all kind of went in the toilet with today's loss. I'm Nolan Bianchi. With me, as always, my partner in crime, Richard Silva, and our wonderful Detroit News columnist, John Niyo. Thank you guys for joining me today. Weird game. We will just I will kind of give the floor to you guys because there's a lot of things that we could talk about in this game. We could talk about J.J. McCarthy. We could talk about the Lions offense not looking that great. We could talk about special teams, penalties, wherever you want to go. Dealer's choice. John, what you thinking?
I think that says it all right there, because that was a complete sort of meltdown in every phase. And I think that's what was so jarring, especially coming out of the bye where you thought you were cleaning things up rather than making a bigger mess of things. So, injuries, all these things we'll talk about. But to me, the most alarming thing was this is how they looked coming out of the bye, not at the end of a stretch of games where they were running out of gas. They looked unprepared. They looked sloppy. They looked kind of rattled at times. And that was, something we haven't seen from this team in a long, long time.
I know for the team, they're all going to talk about, nameless, faceless opponents. They don't take anyone lightly, and I take them at their word. But for us, we're allowed to say they're much better than this team. Vegas is allowed to say they're 9.5 points better. This is, considering the spread, considering the caliber of opponent, this is probably their worst loss since maybe that Bears game a couple years ago, right? In Chicago. And I mean, the two games that they lost last year were to the Bucs, a playoff team, to the Bills, a Super Bowl contender, and then earlier this year you lose to the Packers, Super Bowl contender, the Chiefs, the Super Bowl contender. So this is probably their most disappointing defeat in a few years here now.
Yeah, and hand up, I was counting out the Vikings. I really was. And this just looked like a team coming off that game against the Chargers that it looked like the wheels were about to come off. And I just didn't think J.J. McCarthy would help with that based on the way that he had looked through the first two games. Obviously, he had the nice comeback against Chicago week 1, but if he played 8 quarters, 7 of them were not great. And so just didn't really have the belief that he was going to be able to come in here. And he didn't really light it up, but I kind of wrote this in my story. He made every play that was required of him. Yeah. And you can go 14 for 25 for 143 yards, a touchdown, or 2 touchdowns, and interception. When Justin Jefferson leaves the field before 3rd and 8, you're in the red zone and you don't have any options there. So you tuck it and run, juke Alex Anzalone in the open field and put your team up 10 points. And to me, that was the stuff that Dan Campbell was talking about at the beginning of the week. Like, we know what this guy's about. Yeah. We know he's a gamer. We kind of don't really take any of that other stuff into account because you have to be afraid of what he can do best. And I think today he put that on display, put the Vikings on his back. And again,
this is Michigan though. This is where he'd done that before. I think people know. And he was itching to get back. Obviously, he was ready to come back probably before this week. But I don't think it's an accident that they waited until after the last disastrous game for them against the Chargers, but also until that offensive line was healthier. He had his tackles back today. They were much better prepared team to have he's not a rookie, but he's sort of a rookie quarterback. And there were times today where he looked like it, but the Lions didn't do enough to make him feel like a rookie. And then again, we've seen this with J.J. McCarthy. He's a winner. He's going to make plays like that if you give him an opportunity, and he did today.
And he did. I mean, a couple of his throws early, were dimes right on the money. Yep. I think even the incompletion to Addison, I think maybe on the first drive with Terrion Arnold in coverage, and it was great coverage from Terrion Arnold, but it was a dime. And the touchdown to Justin Jefferson, it was good coverage by Meek Robertson, but it was a great one-handed grab by Justin Jefferson. And then secondly, I mean, the throw was put right on the money. Meek really couldn't do anything about it. Only the 14 completions. He gets sacked, 5 times? 3, I think, by the linebackers. Derek Barnes got him for 1. Jack Campbell got him for another. But he made the plays when he had to make the plays, which you guys mentioned. And also Minnesota's running game. I mean, Aaron Jones, particularly Aaron Jones, but Aaron Jones and Jordan Mason combined to average 6 yards per carry. I know Aaron Jones by himself averaged 8.7. They kind of got gashed a little bit, this Detroit Lions defensive front, which we're not used to seeing. If there's something that this defense has been able to do over the last 3 years and change, it's stop the run. That's what they've been consistently able to do, and they weren't able to today.
And while I think we can obviously give McCarthy credit for what he did out there, guiding his team to a victory, I also think that he benefited from the Detroit Lions making some plays on his behalf, because there were 4 times in the first half, or maybe through the third quarter, where the Lions took a penalty on defense and it resulted in a first down. And a couple of them were big. A couple of them were, or I think one or two of them were third down. There was Ali McNeil. He jumped off sides, entered the neutral zone before the ball was snapped on a 4th or 3rd and 1 or 3rd and 2. There was another. I'm struggling to think of the penalties off the top of my head. Aiden Hutchinson twice with unnecessary roughness.
Jack
Is
Campbell
that right?
Landed on.
Jack Campbell landed.
That's
on JJ
not
McCarthy.
a penalty.
I'm
sorry.
I agree.
Even by the letter of the law, if that's
it's not a penalty.
He ended up on top of him because JJ understandably jumped to try to get the ball over top of him. So that's why they were in that position, because JJ jumped.
And this is not why they lost the game. Let's get that. But he literally was trying not to do the thing that is a penalty, which probably shouldn't be a penalty in this league anyway. But anyway, that's beside the point.
And,
sorry.
I'm going to keep us off the tracks here for a second. There were plenty of occasions where Jared Goff was hitting the exact same way, like completely just steamrolled, defender lands on top of him. And there was one time I looked at him, I go, what is the difference between that and the JJ hit, where it probably just looked a little more violent on the JJ hit, because to your point, he was jumping. But the Lions, 10 accepted penalties, 77 yards. That is the point we are trying to make here. Just again, a sloppy play.
And that's the thing. It was the sloppy. I mean, 3 false starts on them today? You're the home team. You're not. That's not okay.
Full starting line's healthy too. No.
Well, it was.
It was. Yeah. But
no, that was there were just a lot of sloppy plays like that. That just some of that is, I think, to be expected. You're coming off the bye, you're a little rusty, but you work that out early and then you get back in the flow. And to be honest, they came out and looked like, oh, everything's going to be great, because they marched right down the field. Sam Laporta show, 66 plays, 72 yards, and all was right with the world. And then everything went wrong from there.
As it turned out, that play would be a red herring, because the Lions could not convert on 3rd down all game, but they get the 40-yard completion on 4th down for the touchdown.
They were great on 4th down.
Things are great. And then they come out and they score another touchdown on 4th down later in the game. The Lions went 5 for 17 on 3rd down. The fact they even got there 17 times, Dan Campbell was pretty disgusted by, but I think that paints a pretty accurate picture.
And to add on to that, 17 times, their average coming into today was about 12, so like 12.1 or whatever of 3rd downs that they were facing. So they faced a lot of 3rd downs. And when they did face a 3rd down, it was an average distance of 7.5 yards to gain, which, I mean, you're not going to convert many 3rd downs when you have to pass the ball, and you got to pass it for that distance. I think 3, if I'm not mistaken, they converted 3 of their 4 3rd downs when it was 3 or less yards to gain. So that means they were 2 of 13 on anything more than 3rd and 4. 3rd and 3, excuse me.
They did convert a 3rd and 10 plus for the first time this season, I think, something, which is crazy to begin with.
For 44 years, Varsity Ford in Ann Arbor has been more than just a dealership. We're a family, proudly serving yours. As one of the top volume Ford dealers in the world, we're proof that when you treat people right, they come back generation after generation. And now we make it easier than ever with complimentary pickup and delivery for both sales and service. So you can buy or service your Ford without leaving home. Varsity Ford, driven by family, built on tradition.
The run game, though, I think was, to me, the part that was just the biggest surprise, I guess. It's not surprising that, Brian Flores is going to dial up pressures that surprise or confuse or whatever, particularly with the interior of that line. But it was the lack of a run game. I mean, it was, 10 for 25 at halftime and finished
65,
20. There were just no explosives because there were no 4 and 5 yard runs to begin with. And, there were a couple times Jahmyr Gibbs gets stuffed 2 yards behind, and you're behind the chains trying to run the ball, trying to get ahead of the chains. And that's the part that really, really surprised me today.
And that's been a problem all season long. Like, let's just call it what it is. Like, 1st and 2nd down,
and this hasn't
been good.
No, it hasn't. But this also hasn't been a good run defense either.
Yeah.
And, look, they've actually struggled a bunch with jumbo packages and things. You saw Dan Skipper trot out there a few times. It just didn't really work. And it was, you keep hearing Dan Campbell talk about it's one guy here, one guy there, and it is that. And then it got worse as one guy was going off to the sidelines here and one guy was going off the sidelines there. It was just really disjointed all game. And the run game in particular was the part where I thought they would come out and be just sort of efficient.
And if you
nothing else.
Look back to last year's 2 meetings against Minnesota, they go down 10-0 in week 7 at US Bank Stadium. How did they break that game open? 45-yard run by Jahmyr Gibbs. You look at the Week 18 game here last year. People forget they scored 31 points in that game, but they only had 10 points towards the end of the third quarter. I think it was,
and then Gibbs just lit this place on fire.
Absolutely, and they just didn't get it today. And it'd be one thing if you could say, okay, well, you just didn't have to do. But again, this has been the problem with this. I think the defining problem of this offense all season long.
I think it's easy to say now, but I will say it now. I think outside of that Bucks game where Gibbs just put on his Superman cape and was unbelievable, I think for like the last month, to add on to what you're saying, like there has been like reasons for worry with this rushing offense. The offense as a whole, it just seems something is like amiss, and I feels like we can't describe like exactly what it is, but it just doesn't feel quite right.
Well, and they were like, I don't want to say getting away with it in the beginning parts of the season because they were going to Cincinnati and they were scoring 37. You're like, it didn't look right. I can't quite put my finger on it. And it's turning out to be a problem. So to your point, I mean, I think the Baltimore game outside of the Tampa game is the only game where the Lions rushing offense hasn't looked like off in some way. And that's a problem. Yeah. As they go into the back.
No, it is. And now the problem gets worse because Christian Mahogany, it was eerily reminiscent of a Aiden Hutchinson play from last year. It wasn't maybe as serious as that, but he's going to be out probably for most of the rest of the regular season.
Late December at best.
I mean, was sort of how he phrased
imaging
it.
And
he's on crutches leaving here, and so that's a huge blow, particularly in the run game. And then the rest of these, I mean, Taylor Decker's gutting it out with the shoulder to begin with, and then gets rolled up on today, comes back in, and I think he was saying afterwards, like I'm already,
on so many
pain meds for the shoulder. I have no idea how bad this knee whatever is going to feel tomorrow.
I think he said I'll know how bad it feels when I wake up in the middle of the night in pain.
Yeah,
and I was like, fair enough.
Which is the life of an offensive lineman, but that's a huge problem. And then Penei Sewell leaves with it looked like a stinger at first, but he was clearly not feeling great at the end of this. And then Tate Ratledge also left with his shoulder. So you never know how those things are
going to... That was a stinger for the record.
Okay, yeah. So you never know how these guys are going to feel come Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. And then, there are no bye weeks. Right. No more bye weeks. And that's the thing, everybody sort of put all their eggs in this bye week basket to say we're going to feel a lot better, we're going to get a lot healthier. And then you take a U-turn here today on offense now instead of on defense.
Yeah, absolutely. And the trade deadline is Tuesday. So if you're going to do anything to maybe call Tennessee Titans. Don't want to get too specific with it, but let's say they got a right guard who used to play here. Kevin Zeitler
and an expiring contract.
I mean, and it's such a rarity to find offensive line help at the trade deadline. I mean, you can go year after year. There's hardly any, if any, most years, but there is.
This is the one spot where you can maybe get away with it.
So I mean, I think Brad Holmes has got to be on the phone trying to find some help from that offensive line because you can't just plug and play and get by for, we're talking 2+ months now, regular season and then beyond. So they're going to need a lot of help besides trying to figure out some of the things that were going wrong today.
I thought special teams was also another issue for them today.
Probably arguably the worst unit.
Yeah, the 61-yard return on Minnesota's first kickoff return sets them up on a short field. They go score the touchdown. The blocked kick kind of all but ends it. Not really, because the Lions were able to preserve all 3 timeouts, so they had a chance to stop the Vikings on defense towards the end and give their offense a last-ditch effort. Doesn't matter. The kick gets blocked, and they end up going down by 10 with like 3-4 minutes left or whatever it is. And then they had the 99-yard return that got called back by a penalty. I didn't get a good look at it. I have no idea if the penalty was good or not.
It didn't feel like it was some dramatic, obvious penalty necessarily. I mean, I think it's one of those that Viking special teams coach is, pulling his hair out like, really? But that was really bad. And on a day, that's how many times have we heard even just this year about Campbell talking about complementary football, one unit picking up the other. Well, nobody picked up anybody today, and this is what happens when that happens.
Yeah, and I think the special team stuff is a little bit surprising too, because that's one thing that they've been really good at all year is they're not afraid to let teams return the ball, and they think they're pretty good at covering those kicks, and I think so far they have been. But today, I mean, you see the volatility, but also the impact that can come from that play if you just miss one little thing. So, all right, what else do we got to talk about? Anything else before we get out of here?
The state of the NFC North is kind of crazy right now because the Packers also lose today.
Yeah, you didn't lose any ground.
No, right.
At least from above.
Right, exactly.
You guys gained that.
Yeah, the Bears win a thriller against Cincinnati, which I got to go back and look at those highlights because I was just following the score as locker room was opening up or whatever, and I was like, oh, the Bengals went up with 50 seconds. The Bears are going to lose, and then I got back up here. I'm like, the Bears won. What on earth happened? And then obviously Minnesota gets the win there. So Green Bay is the top of the division at whatever they are. What is it?
5-2-1, half-ish game ahead of you.
Right. So 5-2-1. Lions are 5-3.
So are the Bears.
So are the Bears now, and the Vikings are now 4-4. Yeah. So this is separated by, I don't know, do some quick math there. What is that, a game and a half? This whole division right now?
Yeah.
And people are beating each other. The Vikings have beaten the Bears. The Bears have lost to the Lions. Packers have beaten the Lions.
The problem is, first time through, the Lions went 1-2.
Yep.
And, they get all these teams again.
Yeah.
And two of them on the road, of course. But, this is two more division games they lost last year.
Yeah.
3 losses already is more losses than they had total last year. The division is going to be a division race and all the way to the end.
And I will say, that was another thing that, kind of
emboldened. Don't count out the Vikings, by the way.
I agree. And because I was just talking to Matthew Collar, who we had on the podcast earlier this week, and he was kind of saying, it's so interesting how things change in the NFL because just the way things were going, this had serious potential to be wheels falling off completely for the Vikings. Right. They're 3-4. You need so many wins to get into the playoffs. And now all of a sudden they're coming out of here with Andrew Van Ginkel having played and been amazing, with Christian Darrisaw having played and been really good. This is kind of the team that they were always supposed to be, and they haven't been able to at this point. And now they're getting healthy, and they look like they're going to be there till the end. So this division is not going to be any.
The Packers, I think, lost Tucker Kraft to an ACL too, by the way. So the Lions aren't the only team that comes out of this feeling less than whole.
Yeah.
This is it's going to be a race to the finish. It's also a survival of the fittest to the finish, and we saw that last year. We're going to see it again this year.
Yeah, and I do really quick want to just say something because one of the things that emboldened my confidence in this game. I'm not making excuses. I kind of am making excuses, but
I think the Vikings to cover. By the way,
the Lions up until the Green Bay game earlier this year have been so good against the NFC North. We were in this game. You're like divisional game. You never know. I was kind of looking at that as a bonus for the Lions. Of they get this guy who they've beaten. Dan Campbell has kicked the crap out of Kevin O'Connell, and you can talk about the coordinators and all that other stuff. But at the end of the day, that has been that for me, and that was just surprising to see him get way out coached today.
Beating them 5 straight. Hadn't lost here since Campbell's first, hadn't lost here to the Vikings since Campbell's first year. I think this was TJ Hawkinson's first win against the Lions, maybe. I don't even know.
I think it was before Hawkinson or
anyway.
Yeah, because the Lions beat them in 20.
And to your point, they were 10-2 in the division the last 2 years combined. Now they've got 2 losses already this season.
2 footnotes that I think maybe aren't important now because of the result, but maybe, start of a trend going forward. Taron Arnold gets his first career interception, and welcome back Jameson Williams to the explosive play touchdown squad. He had a 34-yarder there on that last Lions drive that made things interesting there towards the end.
Typing, I probably would have predicted it.
Yeah. You probably would have because you're on a roll with predictions lately. But yeah, just two things that I'm putting a note in or whatever, putting a thumbtack in or whatever that saying is.
Uncalled for. All right.
Yes.
Anything else?
Get out of here.
Let's get out of here. For Nolan Bianchi, Richard Silva, John Niyo, we're going to Washington. Before that, we'll record a midweek podcast from Allen Park. So be with us there. Until then, same time, same place. We'll see you guys soon.